entrepreneurs should really focus on, like I said before, that balance. Knowing what your strengths are, but also knowing what your weaknesses are. Boundaries actually protect you. Boundaries help you to feel
Hmm.
at ease. And so
Hmm.
boundaries just help you to have a sense of peace about the things that again are important to you.
I think there will always be a come down with with fulfillment. It's like, it's like a reservoir. It's a short term thing.
Hey everyone, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Epiphany Off the Cuff, where we talk about the entrepreneurial journey and places people go and what people do. I think this is going to be a fun show today. Today we have on our panel Kyri Harris, and of course we have our co-host Hazel. Hey Hazel, how are you?
Hi everyone, I'm doing good. So excited for Christmas.
Oh yeah, are you ready for it?
Oh yeah, yeah. My tummy is ready for it.
Your tummy's ready. The food.
There's going to be a lot of food, a lot of feasting
Oh my
tomorrow.
goodness. Oh
Oh,
my goodness.
good.
Do you cook a lot?
Oh yeah, yeah. Probably cook some fajitas and pasta.
Oh
Okay,
man, that sounds
cool.
good. That
Yeah.
sounds good.
Yeah, share it with your family.
Outstanding, outstanding. Kyri, thank you so much for coming to the show. We're excited to have you.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here.
Awesome, awesome. So, do you have big Christmas plans?
So yes, this year we're going to do breakfast with my husband's side of the family and then dinner with my sister and her family. So we're looking forward to that.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. That sounds absolutely fantastic. Everyone had a happy holiday season, or has a happy holiday season, depending on when you listen to the show.
Yeah,
I've known Kyri for a number. We've known each other for what, about 10 years? Is it
I
something like
think
that?
so.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. That's pretty amazing. And
Yeah.
so, you've been an entrepreneur. You've had your business for a while. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and maybe a little bit about your journey?
Sure, sure. And so you're right. It's been a long time. It took me a while to actually get the business shaped, basically to the point of where it is now, and just kind of in the frame that I felt I wanted it to be. But I
Sure.
am a mental health provider. I have been in the mental health field for over 6, 7 years now. I also have been an educator for 19 years. So I've put the two together, and I'm a school counselor by day, but in the evenings I still have a private practice where I see clients by telehealth. And so that has been rewarding because it keeps me on my toes with not only the students that I see during the day, but also with the adults that I tend to see at night with my telehealth practice. So I get to, kind of have fun with the kids some, as well as helping support them with their mental health needs. And then, of course, working with adults and supporting them and trying to manage being a wife and a mom and a entrepreneur. So,
Have you? So, I mean, a lot of times on the show, we talk about some of the things, some of the experiences entrepreneurs have had. Just getting to the point where their business is at a certain point where they're seeing regular revenue or whatever that looks like. What we've talked about, some of the struggles, some of the successes. I mean, what are some things that stand out to you?
um, perseverance is the biggest piece here because there are going to be struggles. There are definitely ups and downs. There were times when I branched out on my own where I thought, I seem to be spending more than I'm making. And so just trying to, stay the course, honestly, and see how it goes, and knowing that in time a profit will come about. And that's certainly happened for me. Not to mention the fact that with COVID and people being home, more people have been inclined to focus on their mental health. So that's also been a really good um, generator of business for me in terms of, having more clients than I honestly can handle, and having to turn people away at times. So
Oh wow.
yeah, it's been a lot. People have been through a lot, so that's the biggest part of this from as a mental health professional, just trying to be supportive, but also again balancing what I can with the practice as well as with my own personal needs.
Fantastic. Thank you for doing what you do. I mean, that's
Thank you.
it's a lot. I talk to professionals in your field. And they talk about sometimes even taking on some of the stuff that some of their patients or counselees are going through. So I mean, it's a lot. I mean, just on top of owning a business.
Yes.
And that's really one of the things I wanted to talk about today was, is mental health. It's, as an entrepreneur, as you were saying, there's a lot of things that go on. There are a lot of ups and downs. There's a lot of disappointments. There are a lot of, frustrations. There are a lot of unpredictable situations that, we have to go through. And we have to make, decisions and that sort of thing that, sometimes, sometimes it just seems like, there's no, end in sight. There's no justification or, for what we're going through. So, I mean, at a high level, I guess, perhaps either, what kinds of things have you seen or perhaps what kinds of things should entrepreneurs potentially look out for, if they're, heading towards like a mental health crisis?
Absolutely. Entrepreneurs should really focus on, like I said before, that balance. Knowing what your strengths are, but also knowing what your weaknesses are. I've been working with a friend of mine who's had some challenges with the business side of running a practice, and
Sure.
unfortunately, it's gotten to a point where she's honestly out of control. So we've been trying to dial back and make sure that, things, the accounting piece works out while she makes sure that her physical health and mental health are good. And so it's really trying to balance and knowing like when you need to farm out, some of the work to someone who has more of an expertise with that, versus
Sure.
the things that that you are really good at and focusing on that. And then having those outlets, I always talk about having a release with my clients. You got to release the stuff that you build up because we take in a lot during the course of the day. And so it's always important to have an opportunity to just let it out. And so it can vary in terms of what that release looks like for people. It can be something as simple as, blowing bubbles and just like regulating your breathing. And that honestly, as funny as it sounds, it really can be very helpful and beneficial. But things from like blowing bubbles to taking a trip, a lot of people like to travel and get away. And so that's something that people can do. But just having some way for you to have a release is truly important. And so I would definitely encourage everyone to find what that release looks like for them. My
Mm.
husband laughs at me because a lot of times at night, if I've just been going and going and going, right before we get in bed, I'll say, "Hey, I'm gonna play a couple games of Sudoku or solitaire before I like actually lay down and go to sleep." And he laughs because he knows that that's my way to release. Sometimes I just don't have a chance to, like have that meditative time at night like I want to. But just figuring out what works for you. So Sudoku or solitaire works for me on my phone, but then also in the mornings, like I meditate. I have my spiritual
Mm.
time. So just knowing, like again, what really works for you. Trying to sit still at night to do my meditation doesn't always work for me, but for some people, they need that before going to bed in order to sleep well. So, again, it's figuring out what's going to be the best fit for you, and everybody's going to be different. But we can all borrow ideas from different people. So, talking to your circle of friends and family to find out, like, okay, what are you doing and what are you doing, and seeing how you can either borrow an idea or tweak it
Hmm.
so that it works for you.
Hey, Hazel, do you do anything like anything like that?
As for me, yes, I do. Well, it's the pandemic, so we still don't travel a lot. But
Mm,
Sure.
um, I do engage in some like escapism activities like reading books and stuff like, because
Hmm.
it's important like Kyri said, to have that work life balance.
Yeah.
I do have a question though for Kyri. So um how do you draw the line between that work life balance, because sometimes taking a break can have an impact with your momentum and being an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Sure. And so, the thing is figuring out what is going to work for you and setting some boundaries. Um, as an entrepreneur, you want to go, go, go because you feel like you got to always have that grind going or you got to hustle
Yeah.
so much. But
Mm-hmm.
honestly, you have to find that balance in terms of when can I take that break? Um, knowing what's really important, and those boundaries are going to help you to define what's most important for you, thinking through honestly, what are my priorities. If the priorities are your family, then you know that you got to cut off work at some point in time so that you can spend time with family.
Hmm.
Especially for those with little children, it's like, oh well, I'll wait until they get older. Well, that time flies by, so you really want to make some concentrated effort to spend time with the family, while they're here, while they're, still young, because there's so many fun things happening. And even as they get older, yes, they're doing their own things, but you want to still be very intentional about the time that you make for the things that are priorities for you. So, it's really being intentional about what's important for you. And setting some boundaries. And boundaries, a lot of times people feel like boundaries are like this, you know, brick wall or this concrete wall. Boundaries actually protect you. Boundaries help you to feel
Hmm.
at ease. When you set a boundary, if you say that I'm going to work until 6 o'clock and you shut it off at 6 o'clock, you can actually breathe because you satisfied something that you have set in place. It's not that if an emergency came up that you couldn't say, okay, well, I really do need to deal with this emergency. You deal with it, but you know that I'm not going to pick up the next thing because, oh yeah, I don't want to have anything lingering over for the next day. And so
Hmm.
boundaries just help you to have a sense of peace about the things that again are important to you.
How do you overcome like that sense of guilt that you have sometimes when it is 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock and there's still a bunch of things on that list of things to do?
So, you really just have to decide how do you want to tackle it. And so that's where I would imagine that you've probably talked about this some is the prioritization of your day. The things that you know that you really need to get completed in a day, you try to do those things first. You try to knock those
Mm.
out. And so you make that plan. And so yes, emergencies happen, things arise that, maybe need your attention. And so you still go ahead and focus on that. I think what happens a lot of times with business owners is that we get so focused on trying to get it all done. And that's the
Yeah.
problem that you can't focus on everything getting done in one day because
Yeah.
that your business isn't going to thrive. There are going to be so many things that come up, and again, that's where you also need to know how to delegate. There's some things that you don't require your time. It doesn't require your attention. Somebody else can handle it, and you can review it or check it or however you want to go about it. But you don't have to be the one managing every single thing. And
Hmm.
even for small businesses, where it's only a few employees, delegate to those people that you need to delegate to, or temporarily hire someone to manage some of those things. But just recognizing, like, again, what is the true priority or priorities, and then deciding like how they need to be handled, what you need to handle versus what someone else can handle. And recognizing that you can always review things or check behind someone. Accountability is important, so letting the people know that you are delegating to, that you are going to be checking, that you're going to be following up with them to make sure that things are done in a timely manner, and if there are any
Hmm.
sort of issues, that they're going to let you know, so it's not the nth hour and you're like, oh my gosh, it hasn't been done, and then you're scrambling. So just making sure that you delegate properly, that you check in with the person or people that are working on those things that you delegated, and then keeping like that boundary in place for yourself.
I love that. Being an entrepreneur, what happens is that it's not only our own mental health that we need to take care of, but also our employees and team members that works for your organization. So,
Yeah.
my question is this: what are the steps an entrepreneur, a business leader, can take to ensure that their subordinates as well, their mental health are well taken care of too,
Yeah,
and cultivate that mental health culture?
that's an excellent question.
Great question.
The answer is kind of multifaceted. One, you want to encourage time off. Um, you want to make sure that people are implementing boundaries in their lives just like you should be implementing in your own as an owner. You want
Yeah.
them to take that time away so that they come back refreshed and renewed and ready to go. But you want them to take some time away so that they don't feel burned out. You want to encourage them. I tend to, especially being a school counselor, I can send to the staff as well as to students and families little inspirations from time to time. So I've kind of coined Monday as Mindful Monday, Wednesday Wellness Wednesday, Thursday Thankful Thursdays, and so forth. And just trying to send little things out. It might be a meme, it might be a video. I think one Friday during September, which is Latin American month, I sent a video clip of Gloria Estefan doing one of her songs, and like, okay, it's time to get up and dance and just like have some fun. So just little things like that can help. If you have a designated person that can be kind of the wellness advisor for the company, that's great. If not, then take it upon yourself, put a reminder in your phone to just send out a little something that helps people. The funny thing is, a lot of the a lot of the things that I send out to our staff, I need for me. It might have been a busy day the day before, or I might have a lot on my mind, and I'll send out something that makes me laugh. And I'm like, hey, I'm sharing this with everybody else because hopefully they will laugh. And so just little things like that. When you have a company that has like EAP, and I know that's normally with your larger companies, but some smaller companies will have it as well. EAP is called an Employee Assistance Program. If any
Mm.
company offers that, that's also an excellent way for your employees to just relax and figure out some things. One, it offers free mental health or counseling. Usually it's like 3 sessions or so, but when it's free, that means that the person can try it out and just see how it feels without any real obligation. So that's something that is really helpful. Encouraging your staff to speak with mental health providers from time to time, encouraging someone to maybe come in and talk to your staff, whether it's a motivational speaker or or a counselor even, that can just speak to some of the things that are going on. Videos, like just little things that you can share with your staff that will help to uplift them and reset them, because we all get burned out at some point in time. And so when we don't recognize that we need to take that time, it's nice to have somebody else who can say, hey, you know what? It's been a while since you've taken a vacation day or a PTO. Why don't you take the afternoon and go get your nails done, or go to go get a massage, or go walk? Because sometimes in Atlanta, as we know, the weather is going to be 70 on Christmas. um, Go for a walk and it's a nice day as opposed to it being 30 degrees. So,
Mhm.
just sometimes being out in nature can be soothing for people. So think of little things that might help. If your office backs up to a nice river or a very scenic area, just encouraging people to take a few moments to do little things like breathe or meditate or take a walk. All of those are really good relaxation, releasing strategies that will help everyone reset.
Wow, that's great. That's great stuff. So I guess on the other side of that coin, being as a business leader, with so many people working remotely, regardless of the size of companies, I mean, how what are the red flags for managers or for leaders, in identifying, team members or employees that are going through, some sort of mental health issues. I mean, again, with remote, we see each other very infrequently now.
Yeah, so one of the things I do encourage when your employees work remotely to check in with them by Zoom or some other video conferencing periodically, whether it's once a
Hmm.
week, every couple of weeks, and it's just good to lay eyes, as people will say. I've got friends that'll say, "I just need to lay eyes on you." It's good to
Hmm.
lay eyes on people and see like what their countenance is like. You can
Hmm.
hear their tone. Their tone might change if they're really short, or they sound agitated, or they sound stressed. You can hear it,
Hmm.
when you talk to people. So making sure the connection is there. Um, just trying to make sure that you are able to kind of verify for yourself how things are going. Doing informal check-ins with people, those are all excellent ways to see if there is um, a pending crisis that's on the way. Finding out, how people's families are doing, because it might not be them that's going through something, but it might be a close family member. And if a family member is really going through a difficult time, that means that they're going to be experiencing some difficulties. They're gonna, like I said, not be able to focus as well. So when you're
Yeah.
noticing little things, especially when there's a shift in the person's character in terms of how they typically are, if you have a person who's normally very organized and very timely with things, and all of a sudden they're no longer that way, that's a sign that something is going wrong. So if there's a shift, that's usually an indication that you need to really check in with them and find out what's going on. It doesn't mean you're prying, it just means that you want to really find out how to support that person. And again, that's when you might need to offer, hey, take the afternoon off, take the day off, and figure out what you need to do to support that person or yourself.
Wow. Wow. That's great stuff. That's great stuff. I'm taking notes over
No, no
here.
problem, no problem. And it is harder when it's when people are working remotely, but those informal check-ins are really valuable. Just like I said, those meet if you do a meeting once a week where you can see everybody's face, you can see like what's going on, you can see how a person is feeling,
Yeah.
and then if you are checking in like a one-on-one, that's all, but also another excellent time to really find out, okay, so really what's going on, and do it in different ways. Sometimes you can do it with like a rating scale, 1 to 5, with five being horrible and five being horrible and one being great, and just see where they are on that Likert scale. But then the other
Hmm.
thing is doing like creative things. Here's a video, and tell me, where do you see yourself in this video? Which person do you identify with? You can use emojis. Um, there's a tree blob that it's called a feelings tree blob. That's another excellent one. It's got people all throughout the tree, and that is a good way. I like to use that, especially with my students, to check in and see, okay, what are we feeling like today? There's one where a person is sitting next to another person and they have their arms around each other. So sometimes people feel like they have to support somebody else. There's one where the person is sitting on the tree limb and their back is to, is to you. And so sometimes people feel like, I just want to be left alone. I don't want to deal with anything. So depending on
Hmm.
the response that you get from things like that, that will also tell you if a person is that particular number where their back is facing you, then that tells you that something's going on. If they don't want to be bothered, maybe the workload is too much for them. Maybe they are
Yeah.
going through some personal things. Like so many things could be at bay there, but unless you do some sort of check-in, you're never going to know.
So, as an entrepreneur, I mean, a lot of times, we're just, just completely driven. It's like, we're just going, 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 going. What are some signs, we might want to look at, perhaps internally to say, hey, you know what, there might be a problem here. There's a, we need to slow down, do things differently, et cetera, et cetera.
Sure. So typically when there's that shift in your perspective, if you are typically an upbeat person or um, really a go-getter, and all of a sudden you feel like you just don't have any energy, you don't
Mm,
want to keep coming up with new ideas, that's a sign
mm,
that you really need to slow down, that you need to stop and reset. When it's less subtle, if you're having a difficult time getting out of bed each day, a lot of times I know for myself when I really love what I do, I can get up, even if I'm tired, I can get up because it's like, hey, I know I've got some things that I'm looking forward to doing today. But when I'm more stressed and I've just got more things going on than I want to handle, I'm like, oh, I need to stay in bed a little bit longer, or I just can't make it. And so when that shift happens to you, you need to do some self-care. That's
yeah.
the bottom line. But also, if people are noticing that you just don't look the way that you used to look, if um, the glimmer in your eye isn't there, and more than one person is telling you this, pay attention to it because sometimes we are going so much that we don't recognize the signs ourselves. So if somebody else, mentions it to you, pay attention to what they say. So it's just a matter
Hmm.
of being attentive to not only yourself and how you feel, but also to what others, people that you value and respect, are saying to you as well.
I love that you're honing in on, go-getters suddenly having their downtimes.
Mm,
And I just wanted to talk more about that because so sometimes what happens with go-getters is that I typically they are achievers. They do really well with their job, but then most of the time, um, I mean, for me, it happened to me actually at one point in time wherein um, I I become high with achievement because achievement for me can be like a drug. You're high, you get socially validated. It's like it's like going to a social gathering. Somebody asks you, what do you do, and you say, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. You get accepted, right? And it feels very good. But then there is a calm down with that. I think there will always be a calm down with with fulfillment. It's like it's like a reservoir. It's a short term thing. So
Hmm.
what happens when there is when there is like a stagnancy or like a law of diminishing returns is coming in, we're looking for something new. Emptiness happen, and that can lead to destructive personal habits. So what do we do with that emptiness if we've gone way too deep in achievement in exchange for that fulfillment? How do we begin um to really continue having that streak and retain our retain our peak performance?
So, it really goes back to something that I mentioned at first, like knowing how to have a release. Um, no one, no one living can possibly go, 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 go all the time without having a moment to rest. And so we've got to learn how to take time to stop and reset our minds. If you're constantly going, there's no way you can have a refueling of ideas and thoughts and that productivity. So at some point in time, everyone must stop, take a break, breathe, and see like what new ideas might actually come to the forefront in
mm,
order to keep moving. If you don't take that break, I promise you it will not happen. So whether you want to call it a vacation, whether you want to call it a mental health day, whatever it you want to call it, you need to have some time that you actually pause. And I don't just mean when you go home at night or when you stop at whatever time it might be during the day. I mean some intentional time away from the office and the people that you have to deal with on a daily basis. Taking
Mm.
some time just to reset. And if you think about it, in education, a lot of times they talk about, professors will take a sabbatical because they want to hone their skills, they want to do some more research. All of those things, a sabbatical is necessary in order to improve. That's the same thing for
Mm.
entrepreneurs. We have to take a step back in order to look and see, like, what are we going to do and plan for the future. If you think about as we approach the new year, people have to stop long enough to think about, what do I want to accomplish in the next year? I have to look back and see, what have I done already, so that I know what I want to move forward to. It also
Mm.
means taking a look at things that you've done not so well in order to say, yeah, I don't want to do that again. I don't want to repeat that. So let me figure out how I move forward. And so it requires some downtime in order to really move forward.
That's interesting. That's something I know for a lot of folks is kind of scary, because it's like, you feel like, and it's not necessarily true, but you feel like, when you take that break, it's just like, oh, everything's going to grind to a halt. Nothing's going to happen. I'm not going to make the money. I'm going to lose clients. Blah 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 blah. And it's scary. I took a vacation last January, to Miami, and I forgot to stop, and I kept working and, kept making things. And to be honest with you, I don't know that it made anything better. I don't know that, the company was better off, because I continued working. I probably should have just taken that time off and come back refreshed and kept pushing forward. So
Yeah.
I get that. I get that. But certainly, I certainly do, recommend, I agree with you that, that time off, that time away, and having that outlet, is really super important.
Oh, let me just say this too.
Sure, sure.
Studies have definitely been done um, about people who take vacation and what their mental and physical health are like versus those who do not. And so the research is very clear. When you are um, refreshing or having that outlet, then you
Hmm.
definitely are able, and physically as well as mentally able, to come back stronger than you were before. And so
Hmm.
again, I recognize the fear for business owners. I felt the same way, but you will honestly and truly burn out. I don't care how much you love what you do. I don't care how passionate you are. You
Hmm.
cannot keep going 24/7 and expect for those to have that same feeling. It will dwindle at some point in time. And so
Yeah.
when you're intentional about planning vacation or just time away, it really does help you to come back refreshed. It helps you to stay on top of your game versus being at the bottom and trying to climb your way back. So if you even try it just for a day to see, okay, well, and be intentional about doing something that you truly love, not just, sitting around. Although sometimes sitting around is not a bad thing because your body needs it. But just
Hmm.
try it and see how it feels when you go back. Once you try it, I feel 100% positive that you will actually want to take vacation or time away, periodically. Again, I'm not saying you got to take months off, but a few
Hmm.
days here and there, sprinkled throughout the year, I do know that it will make a tremendous difference for you both mentally and physically.
How about daunting events? Entrepreneurs, they experience a lot of unexpected events that can completely change the trajectory of their business. So, how do they maintain their emotional stability, maintain a level of
Yeah.
perspective and not get too emotionally swayed with that, daunting event. Let's say, for example, a big client leaving all of a sudden. So how do we keep that emotional perspective from getting us off the momentum and uh, essentially, keeping ourselves grounded and making sure that the decisions that we make are, fitting for the situation in an objective manner.
So one thing that I can't remember who said it, but someone has shared with me at some point in time about not taking yourself to thinking of yourself very lightly. Like, don't think that you have every answer to every problem. You're not going to. But as a leader, you will always be able to figure it out. So you can't guarantee, what's going to happen. That you know that there are going to be issues that are going to arise in a business. You can't project what all of those issues are going to be. And so because of that, you want to just be able to pause for a few moments to figure out what's going to be the best decision-making model for yourself. Sometimes it's okay, well, I've just got to pivot and go to this in this direction, or, in the example that you provided, Hazel, about maybe losing a really big client. Well, you got to pause long enough to understand, okay, what caused this client to leave, and you've got to troubleshoot it. What are some of the parameters around this client leaving? How do we try to position ourselves so that another client or a big client like this doesn't leave? What things do I need to do differently? You've got to be able to pause long enough to truly understand the situation before moving forward. Now, I can guarantee you that if you just act out of haste, it is not going to go well. And so that's why pausing is really, really, really important, especially for a leader. Being reactionary has never helped anyone.
One more question. So with I guess tagging along with what Hazel shared, the physical there's physical manifestations obviously of stress and that sort of thing. What do those tend to look like? I think, and I'm just speaking from my experiences, over the years as an entrepreneur, and I've seen, frankly, I've gone through a lot, and so, sometimes, I think in retrospect, this may have happened because of stress, but I mean, what kinds of things have you seen? And I'm assuming that a lot of this, would, you'd go back to, self-care and meditation, that sort of thing. So I won't ask you that again, but what have you seen?
Yeah, no, that's a really good question. A lot of times I'll be honest, the physical manifestation of stress can vary. It depends on the person, but I have absolutely seen headaches for a lot of people. I've seen stomach aches or just GI problems in general. Sometimes even, high blood pressure, of course, is another big factor that people tend to see and feel right away. And with the high blood pressure, that's the thing where you can feel it in so many different places. You might feel a tightness in your chest, but you also might feel, palpitations in from your heart. You could experience back pain. Sometimes the pain just travels throughout your body. So it is really quite interesting, the physical manifestations of stress and why you have to really understand yourself well enough to know, how do I start to address these issues? Just I guess a quick little insight about me. I realized I was having vertigo. And while, yes, vertigo is a very real medical issue, I noticed it whenever I was the most stressed. And the more I started to pay attention to not allowing myself to really go into my own mind about that stressful situation or circumstance, that's when it started to subside. Now, yes, medicine had to be a factor for the vertigo, but even with headaches, I've gotten headaches, and because I recognize that it's a stress headache, I've been able to just focus on my breathing. I've been able to do like just different strategies that would help me. So there's a strategy called tapping. And so with tapping, you can tap in different areas, but it's usually and tapping is something that you definitely want to speak to a mental health professional who can give you more insight about it. But I've just learned that tapping certain areas helps me to calm down. And so,
Mm,
like for instance, I would hold in between my thumb and my index finger. If I squeeze there, or like a pressure point, that's
mm,
usually one of the areas that will help me to de-stress. Just like holding my finger toward. Usually, my tension is like right here above my eye, and so if I just kind of hold in this spot, that would release the pressure for me, along with the deep breathing. So that's
mm.
where you really have to understand your body and figure out, okay, where am I feeling this and why am I feeling it? And once you recognize that it is stress because you're thinking about something that might not be happening for 2 days or possibly even 2 weeks, but understanding, how your body responds to stress, that will help you to know how to deal with it. And so, obviously, consulting with a mental health professional can be very important. There is a lot of science behind neurobiology at this point and how to help you because your brain is impacting, what you think about, and then also how your body reacts to it. So just learning some of the information that's out there now and how to best support you is what I would definitely recommend.
Fantastic, fantastic. Hazel, did you have one more question for Kyrie?
No, I'm actually all good. She answered all my questions very well.
Right? This is
Thank
amazing.
you.
Thank you so much. Hey,
Yeah.
question for you, Kyrie. I mean, if people have other questions for you, I mean, are they free to reach out to you?
Absolutely, absolutely. They can either email me, they can go to my website, which is designed the number two and then excel.com.
Okay.
They can also, like I said, email me at k.harris at designed the number two excel.com. And they can, shoot me an email. I will honestly, I'm not taking new clients right now just because I do have so much and I had to set some boundaries, just like we
For
talked
sure.
about. But I, can definitely point people in a direction of, some good mental health therapists. But, like I said, I can definitely answer some questions.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you for that. And what we'll do is we'll put your information in the show notes so people can, just go there. They can click on that and start that email or whatever they need to do. Thank you so much for being on the show. I mean, this was really insightful. I'm sure I'm walking away with some tools. I'm sure, Hazel has as well. And I'm sure our guests are really going to enjoy the show. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. I
Yeah.
really enjoyed it, and I'm happy to, share additional tips if necessary.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Well,
Yeah.
folks,
This
thank you
has
so
been
much
a
for watching.
powerful episode.
Yes, it has. Yes, it has. Folks, thank you so much for listening and watching another episode of Epiphany Off the Cuff. We look forward to seeing you next time. If you want to follow us, you can see us on Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, and you can listen to us wherever your favorite listening location is. We'll see you next time. Thank you again.